Okay, so once again, we're live. Once again, we're live. I told you I would be here all night just in case anything new I heard. I might be late on this one because those boys at Midas Touch, man, they they are on it. Not only are they on it, there was someone in my live. I forgot the name now, but you know who you are. Who was in the live earlier today? Who heard reporting from the Post, New York Post, that had the name of the shooter. We said we wanted to make sure that we got it from another reputable source, and these guys are reputable to me. They haven't failed me yet. So, according to them, they have the name of the shooter, and they give the receipts coming from the FBI. So, I feel comfortable telling you, after seeing that, shout out to that live viewer. Hit us up. I will say your name on the air so we know, so people know that you too are reputable.
We are now getting information about the identity of the shooter at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's an individual by the name of Thomas Matthew Crooks that is being reported by the New York Post as being ID'd as the suspect who engaged in the shooting at the Pennsylvania rally. And now the FBI has officially identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, as the shooter in the Butler, Pennsylvania Trump rally. Crooks was shot and killed at the scene. Here's the statement from the FBI moments ago. The FBI has identified Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, as the subject involved in the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. This remains an active and ongoing investigation. Anyone with information that may assist with the investigation is encouraged to submit photos or videos to fbi.gov/Butler. The exact type of gun is unknown. Could be an AR-15 or some sort of semi-automatic rifle that was recovered at the scene. Going through Thomas Matthew Crooks' voter ID, having the same address in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, of this 20-year-old. The suspect, the individual, is registered as a Republican. Roger Sullenberger reports as well. If this New York Post report is accurate on name, age, and location, the shooter appears to be a registered Republican. The shooter also wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. Demolition Ranch, a far right-wing Second Amendment group that advocates for unlimited use of weapons, AR-15 style weapons. You can take a look at the shirt. It's a graphic photo, I want to warn you. Here it is of the suspected shooter, Thomas Crooks, there after he was neutralized by the Secret Service. You take a look at the shirt that he's wearing. It does appear to be the exact same types of shirts that are being sold on the bunker branding demolition t-shirt. That group also has a well-known kind of right-wing YouTube site that advocates for basically unlimited use of guns right there.
Oh, boy.
Just showing you right now kind of just how reckless and irresponsible a lot of the initial statements that were coming out were. I mean, when you see statements like this from a MAGA Republican Congress member like Mike Collins.
We showed you what Mike Collins said. I'll play that in a second, but I just want to say, for all the people who were morbidly hoping that it was, done by Biden's people, that's obviously not the case now, so you can stop that. For all the other people saying it was an inside job, I'm not sure what inside means. There's a lot of Republicans. Number 3, there was a lot of people on the live that said, and I agreed with them. I'll elaborate, saying that, the reason why the first thing you think is it's staged or it's not real is because, the right wing militias and terrorists have been the ones to be known to do this. They're the ones known by the FBI to do this. The FBI has been calling out for years, saying that it's a problem. So it's hard to believe that it was someone from the left doing this, simply because all of the historical evidence in the recent years has been, these are the people who do this. These are the assassinators. These are the people who have been radicalized. So that's why it's easy to say, well, it can't be this. It has to be an inside job. Or so all of that I understand. I put forth the idea that maybe it could be someone doing it to start a problem. Someone doing it to start the war, to start the Civil War, to start the race war. That's not the first time that they've been caught trying to do that. The FBI has caught 2 people that I can already think of willing to do damage to their own community to make it look like it was someone else in order to get the blood pumping, the fire started. They've already been known to go into the Black Lives Matter marches in during the 2020 and start fires and break windows and blame it on the Black Lives Matter people to get the thing started, to make it look bad. It's also the reason why many of the people on the extreme far right who are unfortunately delving into 4chan and QAnon are so easily convinced that January 6th is an inside job, or January 6th was done by the left to make us look bad, because it's something that they actively, consistently have done for 4 or 5 years now. So it's not hard to believe that. It's hard for us to believe that because we don't live on those channels. It's not impossible that it could have been a Democrat. The guy's last name is Crooks. There's a young lady who's suing Donald Trump for sexual assault whose last name is Crooks. It could be a relative of her. We don't know that yet. So I'm just saying, I understand why you went to that conclusion. Before we say it's an inside job or it's a hoax, understand that people are dead, including him and the person he shot, and 2 others in the crowd are wounded. So I'm not willing to go that far yet. I am going to say there's a reason why the initial thought that the type of terrorist to do something like this would be a right-wing, far right-wing militia type is because that's what the evidence and the historical evidence says. That's why, for no other reason than that. And here we are. That's all.
Saying Joe Biden sent the orders, and also saying the Republican district attorney in Butler County, Pennsylvania, should immediately file charges against Joseph R. Biden for inciting an assassination. Especially now, we are seeing that this individual is a registered Republican. Seems to certainly be not an appropriate statement at all to make under any.
And my last and second point, we'll show another person. My last and second point is, to everybody else, to everyone else who wasn't in my live, but you may be on the other side of the aisle, you also have to not jump to conclusions because it's dangerous. It's gross. You also have to look at the evidence. Don't be mad because we said, well, if there is somebody with a rifle on a roof shooting at somebody else, especially if they're a politician, the likelihood of them being a right-wing zealot is high, because the proof shows us that. The historical evidence shows us that. The FBI shows us that. The CIA shows us that. Because it doesn't only happen in America. The ideology shows us that. The number of people being radicalized shows us that. That's why we had that conclusion, and we still refrained. But those who are really wanting to incite the violence have no refrain. If you're wondering who's really dividing the country, ask yourself who had any refrain, even after this person shot at the crowd, killed some people in the crowd. The very first thing you see dividing the country, while Democrats were saying, we pray for Donald Trump. We hope he's all right. We don't want any of this. The first thing you see on the other side from people who you voted in was the violent calls, the instant assumptions. So when we say you've been inciting violence for years, once again, unfortunately, this is what we meant by that. Look at the deranged, disgusting, unhinged people who are politicians, who represent the United States of America. The first thing they do.
Outlets demonizing Trump and calling him Hitler are directly responsible for this violent attack on President Trump's life. They have blood on their hands. Enough of the violent rhetoric. America is pissed! Exclamation point. Again, none of that seems to actually be anyway the reason for this specific shooting.
Stop gaslighting.
Again, additional statements. One made by J.D. Vance as well, saying today is not just some isolated incident. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs. The rhetoric led directly to Trump's attempted assassination. Again, there's absolute, it's false what he's saying. There's no evidence of any of that whatsoever.
Before any evidence was ever done, ever dug up, the immediate response, the first response, the knee-jerk reaction of these actual fascists is the gaslighting. President Biden isn't the one whose campaign is built on someone else being a fascist. President Biden is repeating the calls of fascism and trying to show you what's happening, as you continue to, as Collins continued to. The gaslighting. The first thing you could think of was, how can I get my base more angry? Not how can I calm the situation, not how can I pray for the victims. You only do that when it's 5-year-olds. You only pray for the victims when the kids are dead and you're afraid you might lose your guns. That's when you pray for the victims. But when someone gets shot at a Trump rally, the people who vote for you, who you're supposed to love, but you despise them and use them because you know they're the marks. You don't pray for the victims. You start out with, fight more, kill more. Look what they're doing. War. Because you want to use them. You hate them. They hate you. If you're a Republican watching this, they're disgusted at the sight of you. They go to the bathroom and they throw up after shaking your hands and telling you how much they love you and America. You're a tool. Not once did these people say, we pray for the victims. The first thing they said was, blood, guts, war. Look what they're doing to you. The only time they ever played for the victims was when they thought that the backlash was going to be on them, or they were going to lose their guns. That's all I have for you tonight. Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20, of Bethel Park. Remember that last name. It may become important. I'm still willing to say maybe it's not just some crazy right-wing person trying to start a race war or a political war. Because I, unlike those other people that you're voting for, Republicans, don't want it. That last name may be important. This could be something other than that. Look up the name Crooks. See who is actively going up against Donald Trump, who has that last name, who he may have violated in the past. And as he calls her, horseface, maybe he had retaliation. It's far-fetched, but I'm trying to believe anything except the coming war that J.D. Vance wants and Collins wants. They hate you. Good night. I'll talk to you in the morning. That's the news.